We've been talking this week about generosity. Pastor Don has been speaking about love gives, that generosity is about who you know, and that it's kingdom. So today I want to actually talk about how do we prepare for generosity, especially when we don't have much to give. It's a weird message because this is a paradox. It doesn't seem to be true, and yet it's so true. Generosity actually begins when we have less, not when we have more. Somebody once said, if a rich person gives you material things, it means nothing. But if a busy person gives you their time, it means everything. So let's set some ground rules. I am going to be in the flow, delivering a message. There's lots in me. I'm just going to poke holes in the bag and see what flows out. But even when it sounds like I am talking about money, I am not only talking about money. It can come across that way. So I just want to set some ground rules. Also, if it sounds like I'm talking about giving money to a church, I'm not, unless I specifically say the church. Generally, as I talk, what I will be doing is talking about being a generous person by choice to the people and the world out there beyond, in our families, and even to ourselves. Okay? So we all good with this? So put the stones away. Is that cool? Set some ground rules, yeah? Okay, so you understand my heart, right? Okay. If you see your neighbor scowling like, oh, this guy's just talking about money, nudge them and say, no, he said it's not about money. Cool? Come with me to John chapter 2, which is the wedding of Cana. Can I ask for a favor in the box? Could I please get a timer on the screen just so I know roughly? Countdown would be great. Okay. Are we ready for the Word of God? John chapter 2. The next day, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, they have no more wine. Dear woman, that's not our problem, Jesus replied. My time has not yet come. By the way, that dear woman is not disrespectful. I know it sounds like it is, but in the culture, the wording is not. It's like madam. But his mother told the servants, do whatever he tells you. That's such a mom move. Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Serious stuff. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Oddly specific. Jesus told the servants, fill the jars with water. And when the jars had been filled, he said, now dip some out and take it to the master of ceremonies. So the servants followed his instructions. When the master of ceremonies tasted the water, that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. He said, a host always serves the best wine first. He said, and then when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you have kept the best until now. So we're talking today from the subject, empty vessels. Empty vessels. Empty vessels. Kind of a weird title for generosity, don't you think? We are just like the disciples. We're only at the party because Jesus is. We are only on this planet because one day God felt like making one. I get arrogant. And I start to think, what do you mean God did this for my life? I worked hard, thank you very much. I studied. I got the skills. I got the training. I worked very hard. And my wife likes to remind me, in a good way, where did the opportunities come from? Did you manufacture them? And it gets me thinking, skills and talents, natural gifts, did I plan to put it into my life while I was in my mother's womb? Did I choose the country where I was born so the opportunities were there? Did I design the life of my ancestors who have wiring that was passed to me so that I'm naturally good at certain things? We are just like the hosts who didn't plan well enough, who ran out of wine. But we run out of energy. We run out of money. We run out of time. We run out of attention for people. Life happens. Sometimes it's our fault. Sometimes it's not. We are just like the servants who were just standing around doing nothing because there was nothing really special to do. There was no wine to serve. And Jesus decided he would include us in what he was doing, include us in the ministry. We have a circle in our mind around what we did. The truth is, this is what God did. Can you show them this is what we did? Now show them what God did. You see, we never are able to truly understand what it means to be generous until we have experienced God's generosity for us. Some of us are generous with money but stingy with time because we have a time scarcity mindset. We don't have a money scarcity. Oh, we worked on that. We did all the affirmations and reading and we worked on the money thing, but we're panicked about getting things done ASAP because we have a time scarcity mindset. So when it comes to being generous with time, we're not. Let me ask you. When you're on the road and somebody tries to ease into your lane, how generous are you? When your kids ask you to help you with school projects, how generous are you? Are you saying, you're in school, I'm not in school. That's your project. How generous are you with smiles in your community, with people that you don't know? If smiles are rare where you live, you should walk around giving out smiles like you're the richest person in the world. How generous are you with compliments? When you feel jealous that somebody else, you go to their house and they've got a nice house. They're like you in so many ways, but you feel like it's difficult to give a compliment because jealousy kills thankfulness. And a lack of thankfulness kills generosity. A compliment. See, we need to learn to receive compliments before we can give compliments. Isn't that true? Because a compliment is a reminder to be thankful. Now, we can put false pride into it, false humility, and be like, oh, no, it's not me, it's not me. And then that's how we become small and stingy inside when we need to compliment others. Because we don't know what it feels like to receive a compliment, actually receive a compliment. I'm not talking about flattery. If somebody's going around, they don't know you, and they're flattering you, that dude wants something from you. I'm not talking about flattery. I'm talking about somebody saying, like, I saw you do that. That was really awesome. You really came through. Well done. You really got yourself out of a bad situation where others would have given up. You're awesome. You look amazing. Take it, man. You're not going to look amazing forever. Gravity is going to do a job on you. My mom, I go home and she's like, wow, Justin, you look so good. You look so slim. My dad's like, you should see him from the side. Can you see my inside scars? I actually have a great dad. I love my dad. I actually have a great dad. He's just a very Chinese dad, so he wasn't kind of flowing with compliments, if you know what I mean. He wasn't flowing with I love yous, because in the Chinese culture, at least our Chinese culture, you don't want to give them a big head. You'd rather they have like the right level of trauma, so they become high achievers. Just enough. At work, are you generous with sharing credit with others? Married people, when your wife is having a bad day, when your husband's having a bad day, and you say, honey, where are the plates? It's in the cupboard where it always is. Dun, 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 dun. How do you respond? Do you respond with generosity? Oh, they're probably having a bad day. Or do you respond with scarcity? No, I need some love and respect around here. We see Jesus at the wedding of Cana. Man, the guy just came out of the wilderness 3 days ago. Do you know that? Man is hungry. The man is tired. He's got stuff on his mind. He's got a big mission ahead of him. That's why he says, my time's not yet come. He knows the price and the sacrifice he's about to pay. And yet, here he is, celebrating somebody else's life victory with them. When the devil asked him to turn stones into bread, he said no. But when his mother said to turn water into wine, he said yes. Just a few days later. Generosity has a soft spot for other people. So we have to realize that generosity starts with being big inside. Generosity is not what you have, it's a choice you make. In fact, if I really wanted to mess with your heads, I would say generosity is not about what you give, but what you keep. Because if I have not a lot in my life and I give all I have, who's more generous? Let me mess with your head a little bit more. What if somebody doesn't count the cost of what they have and just like, you have some, like Oprah, you have some, you have some, you have some, versus a person that counts the cost. Oh man, I really need this for my new shoes. I'm not talking about bills and actual needs. I'm talking, oh, I could really use this for myself. Counts the cost and gives it anyway. Who's more generous? See, generosity does it anyway. Generosity does it anyway. Jesus was generous in using ritual purification jars to fill with wine. My friends, that's like going to mama's house and using the fine china to feed the dog. Maybe even worse. He's not a stickler. Generosity covers shame. He knew that the hosts, the married people getting married, the people who just married, they would never live down the fact that they ran out of wine at a wedding. That's like ultimate social shame in those days. Hey, who knows? Maybe Mary had experienced some shame of her own in carrying Jesus. Where do we see this? Well, Psalm 69 says, even the drunkards at the town bars make songs about me. This is a prophetic psalm about Jesus. They make songs about me, and even my brothers pretend they don't know me. So here you have someone like a Mary and a Jesus who have experienced all of this shame, but then they understand what God has done for them, and now they're looking to cover the shame of somebody else. I don't want you to go through that. In fact, I want you to feel what it's like to be covered. to be loved no matter, to not be judged. And isn't it funny that she says, just do whatever he says? Jesus was generous with the quality. He made the best. Jesus was generous with the amount. There were 6 jars, but if there were 8 jars, he would have done 8. If there were 10, he would have done 10. It was filled to the brim. Can you imagine if the word said there were 12 jars, so Jesus filled 3? Doesn't sound like him, does it? Doesn't sound like him. He was also generous with the credit, letting the servants and the hosts take the credit. And he was generous with the joy. Generous with the joy. Do you know how much wine he made? I did the nerdy thing and actually counted. Can we show them he made 900 bottles of wine. All right, let's just chill for a second. Wait, okay. This is a regional rural wedding. 900 bottles of wine, max. Lower estimate, but about 600 bottles of wine. This is 900 bottles of wine I counted. Okay, so let's say on average, the average person drinks 2.5 glasses of wine. Some maybe 4, some can't handle half. Okay, so let's say on average 2.5 glasses of wine. 5 wine glasses in a bottle. That means if the 400 people in this room had a party right now and ran out of wine, it still wouldn't be, we would be going home with at least 300 bottles. This was his first miracle? He didn't even take the credit, but the servants knew. I just want you to let that sink in for a second. In marketing, we have this word called satisfice. We sacrifice sufficiently. Suffice, sacrifice. So it's like we can't get the best, but we just satisfice. We get just enough, or we do just enough. Not Jesus, man. Jesus is like, I don't know what you're going to do with all this wine, but you're going to be a pretty generous person the rest of your life. That's a lot of wine to keep back. Maybe you're going to give it out. Back in those days, getting drunk wasn't really a thing. It wasn't really a social problem. No, I'm not kidding. It wasn't really a social problem. See, the world teaches us that we need to be go-getters. But to be big on the inside, we need to be go-givers. This isn't about looking for reasons to not give. This is about reasons to give. Now, I'm not saying give out of your lack and then ruin your life. That's not me. I'm not that guy. I'm the give the fruits guy, not give the seeds guy, remember? I'm not that guy. I'm about wisdom and generosity. This is not about switching off your brain, but this is about switching on your heart, head and heart. You get me? So we have to set standards for ourselves because we decide the kind of people that we are. There are times where I'm in lack in one way or another, financial sometimes. You know, just because you've got lots under your name doesn't mean you have cash sitting around to spend whenever you want it. Is that true? It doesn't matter how much you have. Cash flow is a thing. Yeah? Sometimes I'm depleted spiritually. I just came off the stage, man. I don't want to pray anymore. I don't want to listen to any more worship songs. I gave out so much energy and I'm tired. I'm tired. And then somebody calls and wants help or advice. Now, I know I'm in lack. 100% I'm in lack. I know the responsible thing to do is to take self-care. Yes, self-care. But I set a standard for myself. Because if I let this moment pass me, I will shrink on the inside. And if I allow myself to be smaller on the inside, my life will go smaller. I cannot afford for my big life to get smaller because I have become smaller on the inside. I want to maintain and be big on the inside. This means being generous to yourself. Orrin Arnold said it like this. To your enemy, give forgiveness. To an opponent, give tolerance. To a friend, give your heart. To a customer, give service. To all, give charity. To a child, give a good example. And to yourself, give respect. You know, in business people, just for a second, keep 5% or whatever the percentage is of profit to treat yourself. This is not a salary. Psychologically, it's good to reward yourself for taking risk. You will make the distance if you learn to reward yourself. And the same is true in the business of life. You gotta take moments to reward yourself, because if you are stingy towards yourself, you will not be generous towards others. Isn't that true? If you are worried about the food in your own mouth, by your own hand, because you're not feeding yourself, you're not gonna feed other people, and if you do, it's foolish. Generosity can be selective. What? Yeah. Generosity can be selective, especially if you're directing it in a way that'll be longer lasting and have bigger impact. Generosity can be selective. Jesus didn't make wine for all of the weddings in all of the places like that. He could have, but he didn't. I'm okay with that messing with your head. Jesus at the pool of Bethesda didn't heal all the beggars, he only healed one. So I'm not telling you to switch off your brain. I'm telling you to make a decision that you are going to be bigger on the inside with generosity. Secondly, gather the empty vessels. Gather the empty vessels. Make lists. Here are 6 reasons to not be generous. Here are 6 reasons to stay empty. Can I throw them up? 6 reasons to stay empty. Number 1, fear of being taken advantage of. Number 2, scarcity mindset. Number 3, social or cultural norms. Number 4, economic hardships. I say economic because financial implies it's only in your control. Economic is like big picture. Wars, tariffs, all that good stuff. Number 5, skepticism about impact. They're just going to spend it and use it. Well, I don't know why I sounded Australian just then. Oh, nah, I'm not going to give to them. Don't worry. It's an Australian thing. Skepticism or impact. Okay. I'm guilty of this. Because sometimes I see people asking for money and I think to myself, oh, it's just going to go on wastefulness or to their controller or boss or something. The Indonesians in this room know what I'm talking about. But I challenge myself. No, I don't challenge myself. The word challenges me. Would Jesus have done that? Would Jesus have said, they might get drunk and that might be a sin. I'm not going to make that wine. Remember the and. It's faith and wisdom, right? We want easy rules that we can follow, but it just doesn't work like that. Here are 6 signs that you are transforming on the inside with generosity. 6 signs. When you give despite uncertainty about impact, remember, generosity does it anyway. You give even when it's not reciprocated. I love what somebody said. They said, you have not lived until you have given somebody something they can never repay you. Giving when it's inconvenient, giving in the face of rejection or misuse, giving despite personal hardships, giving even in competitive environments. What does this mean? When we understand and see that God has done things for us, then we are motivated to be generous to others. Here's the trick though. We put a broad brush on that. And we say, yeah, God saved me and God blesses me, generally speaking. No, we got to get specific. List needs one by one. I have this bill to pay. I have this bill to pay. Example, I have this bill to pay. I have this thing coming up. I have this thing coming up. All my concerns. And watch God literally not literally, tick them off one by one by one. Maybe it's emotional needs. Maybe it's time and attention. Whatever it is listed. I've been doing this for years. Years. Like maybe more than a decade, maybe decade and a half, maybe even 2 decades. I have this thing called GDI. It's my short form. Whenever I tick something off that list, I put GDI, which means God did it. Oh, there you go. Thank you. God did it. Let me read you something. This is real from my real journal, my GDI journal. We had left my job to start truly building the business, but we were running out of cash. We were on our last $50. We're 2 weeks late for rent, and the car lease company were chasing us for payments. Our gas bill was overdue, and our business credit card was maxed out at $11,000. We were well and truly past our buffer zone. We called the bank to apply for financial hardship arrangements. The system rejected us. But the lady on the phone felt moved to ask her manager, who in turn signed it off. Not only did they pause the repayments, they also reduced the interest rate from 15% down to 5% for a 3-month period of pause, and then canceled any overdraws of $1,900 roughly. We should not have qualified for such a thing. But God's love poured out on them at the bank, and favor covered us like a shield. Then an old client called me and asked me to quote, and we won it. And they signed off on a $22,000 invoice, our largest ever. Our cash came in and cleared the debts in that time, just past the 11th hour, just past our expectations, and just past our limit. And now faith is built. God did it. If you're like me, you're like, what can I do for God? Because this isn't just one. I have hundreds of these. Hundreds. You know how big that has made us on the inside? And you know what? I know you have thousands too. You just need to make the list and look at it. And when you realize how abundant you are, super abundant, to the brim, you will not be so concerned about running dry. Like the master of ceremonies. You know what a master of ceremonies, their whole job is to maintain the flow of the event. In this case, he is maintaining the flow of the wine. And our job, when we realize the source is actually from Jesus, is to maintain the flow. When circumstances come up that wants us to shut down because of lack, maintain the flow. Stay flowing. It will widen your river, and you fish from the same river. You eat from that river. Some of us have a little puddle and we're looking for fish and we are protecting our puddle. No, build a river. Is that too theoretical for you? Build a river and fish from your own river. It's not all for you, but you will eat well. Patty Dye says it like this. Being generous often consists of simply extending a hand that's hard to do if you're grasping tightly to your righteousness, your belief system, your superiority, your assumptions about others. And watch this. Your definition of normal. Henry Ward said, every act of charity is a step towards heaven. Desmond Tutu, I love what he said, do your little bit of good wherever you are. Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. John Bunyan says, Simone Wells says, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And John Wesley said, do all that you can, by all means that you can, in all the ways that you can, in all the places that you can, at all the times that you can, to all the people that you can, for as long as forever you can. So practically speaking, this month, what I want us to do is, let's get that list up of marriage and singles. There you go. In the marriage, I want you to give grace this month. In friendship, give compliments. In the home, give time. In the workplace, give credit. And in the church, give back. Specifically about the church. I know you give. If you want to challenge yourself and stretch, just do 1% more. That's it. If you don't give anything, then just give 1%. I'm not a tithe 10% guy. I know there are principles, but people are struggling. It's real. Life is real. But you decide your generosity. Don't put yourself in debt and ruin your stuff. Don't do all that stuff, please. Just set a target of 1%, even if it takes you 10 years. You don't have a scarcity, time scarcity mindset. You've got 10 years to give more and more percent. Business people, if you want to give yourself a 25-year goal, that's 100 quarters, 1% per quarter. Just 1% increase per quarter over 100 quarters, which is 25 years. No time scarcity. Are you going to play the awesome keys again? Make it jazzy, brother. Okay. As we just close, are we still friends? Yeah? We're all on the same page? That wasn't too much about money, was it? I don't think so. Yeah, we're cool? Okay. Yeah, river never stops running. Very cool. I want to tell you a story. There was a man that went with his wife to church. He didn't want to go in. It was a wife thing. He didn't want to go in. So he was going to stand outside and just play games on his phone. But it started raining. So he came into the service with his phone and sat in the service. Then his phone rang. And the preacher scolded him. How rude and disrespectful to come in and have your phone on during my message. And then his wife elbowed him and scowled at him. I can't believe it. And then the people at the church, as he was leaving, gave him dirty looks. You know that look? Dirty looks. He was so shaken up, he never went back to that church again. That night, he's so nervous, he goes to the bar. And he orders a drink, and he's trembling from the fear. And as he goes to drink, he spills beer on himself. And straight away, a janitor comes up and mops the floor. And then the waitress comes at him and gives him a little side hug and says, "Don't worry, man, we all make mistakes." And then uses a napkin to help him dry off. And then the bartender said, "No problem, this one's on the house." And he never left that bar again. It doesn't matter where you are, in the church or in the workplace. Generosity is Jesus, and Jesus is magnetic. Jesus is attractive. If God wants us to be more like Jesus, the devil wants us to be less like Jesus. If Jesus is generous to the brim, if he covers shame, if he's telling us to maintain the flow, if he's telling us to make lists of his generosity towards us so we can be generous towards others, then let's just do whatever he says. Praise God. I've loved talking to you today. Thank you for being so awesome. I love you.